Team
We got
really
23
reminds me-
minutes.
That team really reminds me of that Raptors team with like Vince and McGrady.
Oh,
and
we
then
had
Zach
we had
Levine, and
that we had that
the-
debate at the
Yeah.
thing.
Garnett reminds me of
did.
Oakley, and then like the old veteran guy.
Are you usually talking about this year's team?
No,
We're talking about Minnesota compared to
Oh,
the Raptors.
that
I
team.
thought you were talking
So-
about the Raptors team this year compared to the Vince
No,
Carter team.
like that team. So they have the two young guys, the high flyers.
yeah.
Then you got the veterans that are still they can still,
Still
kind of
play,
do something.
and pass on some stuff.
Yeah. Like I really see that thing. The only problem is that Zach and Wiggins aren't as good as McGrady and Vince were. That's the biggest problem. But Zach is not.
See, but McGrady was not good on Toronto.
Zach's similar to-
McGrady was like a 12, 13 point player before he left. Like he hadn't really evolved to that thing because he was
He was
still
so young.
He's still so young. You
No,
don't
but
lose that.
he clearly no guy
they
goes from
knew-
13 to 35 unless you had it. So they clearly
They knew.
wouldn't allow him to.
Yeah.
to do
I
this
remember.
thing.
I don't watch much ball back then because I was too young, and I just didn't watch it. But I remember like people saying like, "We let a good guy go. Like we know we lost something."
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't
they're
think
like,
he was
he's gonna blow
35,
up.
but I knew he was better than what he was doing.
You could tell the league knew the potential because of the offers that they were getting, even on signing trades, because everybody was after him.
And they left him for
knew
nothing.
they knew the potential that he had because he was still they got him out of high school. He was still developing his game, and everybody we had this discussion. They legitimately had they kept the team together might have won a championship because a lot of people believed that they had a good opportunity to do it. I mean, it took Allen
just shows you-
Iverson it took crazy games by Iverson to beat them.
That just shows you
Crazy.
the times in the NBA because back then those guys didn't want to play together. Whereas now guys are like, hey, like let's do
Well,
a
it's
team.
the
Well,
shadow.
they
We
didn't want
need
to.
players.
I think I really watched McGrady. If Vince didn't come there, I don't even think they would have started him. The only reason he got jumped up to starting is because they were cousins and they loved playing together, and then they integrated him into the starting. It's like I don't know if Butch Carter didn't like his game at first.
I was like Butch Carter anyways.
I like him.
All right. Do some Raptor talk and we'll finish it up.
All right.
All right, guys, we're back. We're talking about the Toronto Raptors and the up and down season they've had so far. They've had some big wins. They beat the Spurs. They've also had some bad losses on back-to-backs to Phoenix and Denver. 17-11. Pretty sure they're fourth place in the East. What's the ceiling for this team? What's their identity?
See, here's the thing, and I've had this discussion on a number of occasions. This is a wishy-washy team. If you look at it, I think Kyle's at a better level this year than he was last year because
He's ever been.
He's ever been. He's in a better shape. Great on him for doing that in the summer. I think that was his biggest problem, especially in the playoffs. He looked tired. He had a terrible playoff run against Washington. DeMar's playing well. I like Carroll. The team has a few pieces. If you look at it though, is this a team that's going to really compete for anything down the road? Will they be a playoff team? Probably. Well, where will they finish? Probably in anywhere from maybe third to seventh, something along the line. But you don't really get that feeling that this is a team that's going to really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's it'll be nice they'll fill the building, they'll get a couple wins, maybe they'll win a playoff round, but then that'll be pretty much about it. You don't get the sense that this is a team that can compete for a championship, and that's where the debate comes along. Is it better to be doing this for X number of years, or better to just start rebuilding and from the bottom and get that superstar talent? Which again, I like Kyle. I think he's an all-star player. I like DeMar, and there aren't many like superstar type players. But if you look out in one of the drafts, like they had that unluckily with Bargnani, and then again Greg Oden would not have been much better eventually.
Yeah.
They need that. I think you can't win in this league without that superstar talent, and that's where there's only a few teams that have them, and if you're fortunate enough to have one, you'll be in good stead. The rest of the time, you're hoping to maybe win a playoff round or two. And be entertaining. Exactly. That's all they can really hope for at the end of the day. I like some of the guys. I think Damari is entertaining. I think that's been a great signing. Corey's been a good guy that they got in from San Antonio. Mm-hmm. But again, it's going to be a mid-level team at best. That's the identity.
Same thing is the feel I get from them. Even when everyone was when they were really starting to improve and everyone was jumping on that wagon, I said they were going to lose first round to Brooklyn. I said they were going to lose to Washington. I told everyone I don't see. Lowry's a very good player, and it bothers me to say this because I love everything about him. I don't hear any bad things about him off the court, and he plays really hard and he's confident. He's not scared to take that shot, but it's almost like a Kobe thing where it's like he's the point guard you're supposed to distribute, and if you can score, fine. But he takes these difficult shots when he's trying to help us get back in the game. That I don't. If Lowry is our guy that we're using to take that shot to win the game, we're in big trouble. As good as he is, we need a guy. I was hoping DeRozan would grow into that guy, but he's not that guy yet. Someone who could do it for us to score.
Someone like who?
We don't have that player now.
Yeah.
But even on another team, who would you like? Give an example of someone you would think of.
Well, again, like I said, we had a debate. There's only 3 or 4 guys. When the ball's in their hands, you have confidence.
That's what I mean. Is that what you're saying? Like an elite superstar kind
Well,
of guy?
not elite, but better than what. Like I would even. I would even take Wiggins. What we're talking about off camera. I would even take Wiggins. I would trust Wiggins.
Okay, but let's talk about a guy that's not like a first overall pick. Maybe someone who, even though it's unlikely, you can get in free agency. Like who? Or a trade. Rudy Gay wasn't that guy. Right?
Yeah, no, Rudy was.
No,
Rudy Gay's an above
But
average player.
But how many game winners did he hit for us when he was here in the little time? He hit 3
yeah,
buzzer
he
beaters,
did, yeah.
2 shot buzzer beaters, and 1 drive buzzer beater. But so to me, a guy like him who can close
Someone
the game
that
was
scares you,
yeah.
really.
But at least the whole game he was almost useless. But at the end of the game, we had a guy
With
who we
still
could kind of
steer.
go to. Yeah.
See, our issue is that we had that back in the day, and once you get used to that, and the level that it like when Carter had the ball in his hands again, this is again, God knows like 10 years now. You had a feeling this man's gonna win the game. Get it in his hands. Do you have
Get
that?
out of the
Do
way.
you have that? During that Washington series, and look, that last possession where they ended up the Brooklyn series.
Oh, Kyle went in.
The Kyle.
Got blocked.
That was a disaster of a possession. Like you knew that you had
Nothing.
no confidence they were going to hit that shot. You had no confidence.
He does that all the time.
I mean, I remember there was I think one road trip where I think Vince hit like 3 game
Yeah.
winners in like span of like a week or 2. It was
Celtics,
crazy.
Clippers,
Yeah,
he
it
went
was crazy.
Yeah.
And you don't have that on that team. You don't know who should take that final shot. Corey Joseph had a great buzzer beater, good for him.
And he's
He kinda
honestly,
lied.
Corey Joseph. I've said this before. Love his game. What he is as a backup point guard with some providing stability. He's one of the worst shooters for a guard that I've seen in a while.
But he doesn't even really shoot.
No, and that's fine. All I'm saying is if you're my point is if you're counting on Corey Joseph to hit your game winners, whether it be by a broken down play, by DeMar going to the net having to wrap around it for a 3, you got problems.
But I would rather them have a play where someone
It's
gets an
developed.
open shot
Yeah.
than give the ball to Lowry.
No,
and say,
definitely,
"Go
and
make a
say
play." I
make
don't
some
trust
play.
that.
No, definitely,
I don't
I
trust
see
that
that
for
too.
DeRozan. I don't trust that. Like Carroll's been hurt a lot, so I don't know. They are a good team, but man. Unless they're blowing out a team, I don't know how you're going to win when the score's close in the playoffs. I think they're going to lose first round again. I don't know who they're playing. But I'm being serious. When the score's close, what are you going to do at the end of the game? Because all I ever see is almost like what the Clippers do, where Paul Pierce, anytime they're in trouble, no matter what Blake's doing, they give it to
Chris
Pierce
Paul.
and Chris Paul, sorry, they give it to Chris Paul and they say, go do
Make
your
something
thing.
happen.
Yeah, and they trust him and he's clutch. So, but Lowry doesn't have. He has the confidence, and that's why I hate saying things about him because he works hard, he plays good, he distributes, he shoots, he plays defense. I see him jump against big guys, and he's not scared to get hit. So I don't want to say anything bad about him, but
No, but it's not a bad thing to say that he's not like an elite. Like I don't know. Like there's very few guys in the category we're talking about, right? That's the point.
That's accurate.
And what?
The thing that I always come back with this Raptors team, the best thing that they can strive for is hope to catch some lightning in a bottle and end up being a lower tier Detroit Pistons team from back in the day with Ben Wallace and that kind of thing. And even that
Yes,
is
and they don't have
the only way they're gonna do it is if they lock down defensively. And do they have a couple of those players? They do, not enough of them.
Exactly.
But that's the only way that they'd actually go into like Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that. We'll play lockdown D.
I hate to be the guy that's pessimistic. If I said this before, like 2-3 years ago, when after the Brooklyn year, when they lost to Brooklyn, what they need to do is a full rebuild.
Yeah.
Now I know that we have Masai. Masai likes to work magic. We've talked about this team. It's not a title threat. They're not a contender. No matter what happens, they're not gonna have a lottery pick to win the lottery. The team they have is not going anywhere. Sure, you might win a series. You might win 2, and that would be like winning a title. I can't see them winning another series. You have Valanciunas, who is what, a top 7, maybe top 5, top 7 center, right?
Yeah.
In this day in centers, what are they really good for?
Offensively.
Because you know what, we've seen them not really lose too much with him gone, as good as he's been. With Biombo, they can't do much.
But Biombo's a great defender.
Exactly. So you sacrifice some offense,
Yeah.
and Valanciunas can't protect the rim
Yeah.
as a rebounder.
Mm-hmm.
You plug in a guy who will get you 6 points a game off lobs with Biombo. You don't lose much. You lose DeMar Carroll. I love DeMar Carroll. Love him.
Yeah.
One of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah.
Hard nose.
He's probably more of a loss. But even then, you lose him. What is it really? They don't have too many real difference makers. And the only way you get difference makers, unless you're New York, who even they can't get free agents, Lakers, who can't get free agents, is through the draft. Westbrook, Durant, Carmelo Anthony, who ended up going in a trade, which very rarely happens. LeBron James left because he went back home, went somewhere else. These guys don't go around. Part of what I'm saying is you need to draft the players.
Yeah.
And nobody's coming to Toronto. You can make up all the Drake, all the Kevin Durant. I watched Vince Carter when I was younger. These guys aren't coming here. So it's going to hurt to see Masai take a fall or whatever it is. But if this team ever wants to win an NBA title, I'll tell you one thing. It's not going to be from a free agent. It'll be from drafting a Vince Carter type guy, a Westbrook or...
See, even that was catching lightning in a bottle. I mean, they made that swap with Anton Jameson with Golden State. I don't think anyone really thought that Carter was going to be a good player. I don't think anyone thought that he was going to be the player that he was. Because I don't think Golden State would have made that trade if they thought that.
And Jameson had a good career anyway. Right?
But had he been on that Raptors team, the team wouldn't be where it was with Carter. No way. No chance in heck. Because, again, he was a player that was a completely different style than Carter. A good player. You know, he was made the All-Star game a couple of times. But he wasn't to that level where Carter brought the whole Toronto on the map.
And I hear broadcasters and fans and everybody say, "Oh, like we want to win a series." That's great, like they're realistic. But even then, like we said, okay, great. Let's go back next year and try and win one more series. And what you do in management, in life, whatever, you want to get to the highest level possible, right? You want to make yourself better, make your team better. And this team's not winning a title. And it's a shot in the face, but it's reality. To be honest. 20 teams in the NBA at least, they're not title contenders.
See, as funny as it might be, and again, I don't want to go off to different sports, but I'll use the Toronto model in here. What the actual hockey team is doing at this point is the way that you should be doing, because they know they're going to be terrible. They've been terrible for years.
Do it the right way.
Do it the right way. You're going to draft high-end players, and then the team goes from being a bottom feeder to a contender in the next few years. You win one playoff series, great. What does that do for you? It gets you a mid-level draft pick. You hope that the guy becomes a starter,
a
serviceable player, starter if you're lucky. You'll be dwindling in the mid pack for the rest of the time, realistically, unless the Raptors have done a decent job of drafting over the years. The Carters, the McGrady's, the Stoudemires, they've had players.
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years. Well, again, Marcus Camp. Again, I've always been I don't want to go too in the past, but that whole NBA draft rule, because I think the Raptors had actually won that draft, and then
with the expansion rule
that cost them Allen Iverson was again terrible. But again, that might have meant that Vince Carter would not have been drafted by the Raptors. So it's a catch-22. You might as well be terrible, rebuild, and have a legitimate shot. Because it'll be nice, win one playoff series, great, put in some butts in the seats. But again. Nothing else. Like the fans are going to get tired of that because you're not going to grow.
See, the problem with that, to me, is pushing that self-destruct button we you're talking about. Let's just look at, I'll give you two examples. Minnesota. They got a bunch of number one picks. They have hope, but that team isn't going anywhere, right? And
I don't know, because to be honest, by the time, I think in 5 or 6 years when those guys are all in their prime, you'll have guys like Curry who are at LeBron's stage now, late 30s. LeBron will be out of the league.
But we're only talking, you don't even think he's going to stay there, so that team could end up being nothing.
Okay, but now we're going too far.
No, I'm just saying, you never
Let's
know
say if
what
they
can
stay
happen,
together.
But you know what? If that Minnesota team, if they were playing in the Eastern Conference, that would already be a legitimate freaking playoff team. Right now, the way they are now,
they'd probably win the second round, maybe. But is that team going to win anything?
But that might have possibilities because Wiggins might have sent.
That was OKC though. That was OKC when they played the Lakers in that first round. Remember?
Yeah.
Then they take the Lakers 7. They took them 6 for sure.
Which team?
OKC when they played the Lakers.
Okay.
And everybody's like, oh, like this is going to be easy win for the Lakers. OKC stepped up and they took them 6 or 7 games. What happened the next year? I think that was the year they went to the West Finals. The year after that, they went to the finals.
Yeah, but but even in the finals, did they look like a team they got walked over?
They did.
What's the point of? It's almost like Barkley. When you get to Phoenix, you go there, and then you go to the finals, lose, and never get to go again. It's not about getting there. Like that's what Golden State's trying to prove.
Okay, you have title aspirations though. At least you have title aspirations.
Yeah, okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, if you could get all these draft picks. Okay, let's just say LeBron never. LeBron never went over there. So they would have had Thompson.
Bennett.
They would have had Bennett.
Kyrie.
They would have had Kyrie, and then they would have had Wiggins. Now that team still would have been a scary team, but I don't picture that team being a team that would have beaten the Spurs in the playoffs. Yeah, but they would have beaten.
Well, that's exactly our point, right? Cleveland figured, you know what, we might be middling in forever. We want to win a championship. So you get LeBron back, and they did everything they did to get him back because they want to win something. Because God knows, nobody wins anything in Cleveland. Well, every franchise is freaking terrible in Cleveland.
Yeah, but
every one of them.
But then the thing is that the only thing you're doing is hoping that your high picks become assets to get something better, or they turn into something special and don't leave you. So if you do that now, you're going on a hope where, for example, Golden State, I think you said, is that all their players were drafts and they grew up together, and it wasn't like a big signing.
No, they had no big signings,
Andre,
really.
who isn't a huge.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's a
But
secondary
again,
piece.
that's lightning in a bottle, though, because who would have figured that Steph Curry would have become the player that
No,
he
but
was?
they-
Exactly,
believe in
and
the system.
Draymond Green, and
Draymond
all these
Green,
guys that ended up
it's
becoming
lightning in a
something that
bottle.
you never thought they were going to
Yeah,
get.
but
Well,
the
much
problem
better.
is that they believe in the system. So if
It's more of a
Toronto-
Spurs model too, I guess,
Yeah,
right? Where
yeah,
everybody chips.
Yeah, but OKC, if they didn't lose, because the problem with Harden, I tell people this with Harden all the time, is that Harden, people think Harden just wants to run and be the guy. Harden had no problem staying in OKC. The problem with Harden was that in that last contract year, he disappeared in the playoffs completely.
Yeah, he was nowhere in the
they were
finals.
doing, yeah. So what I'm saying is, especially the finals. So OKC scared. Are we going to give this guy all this money and have another Gilbert Arenas on our hands, or another? Because a lot of people were messing up at that time, and they didn't want to be one of those players. So they didn't believe, and they thought just these two guys were strong enough, and they're not strong enough. If they kept Harden there, and we're not talking the Houston Harden, we're talking the playmaker.
Secondary,
yeah,
no,
they
sure,
kept
yeah.
Harden. They could have been a problem. Golden State believed that this exact core was struggling before. They were winning games here, up and down, but no title aspirations at all. To me,
But here's the thing. So let's see that OKC model. Like they didn't make the playoffs last year because Durant was there. If they had, even as an 8th seed in the West, if they had like those guys half decently healthy, you know, in your minds, and I think the majority of people's mind, those guys are still a threat by what they can produce on the. And that's what I'm talking about. The Raptors. Getting back to the Raptors, you don't see where all the